Draft grades are far from a new concept on YouTube when it comes to NFL content. There's plenty of people out there who dedicate a channel to a specific team and will talk about each individual pick in depth, or they'll talk about the draft class at whole in depth. There's plenty of people out there who cover the league at large, such as myself, that will go division by division or conference by conference or talk about the draft in one big video. But you never see anybody talk about each individual team in their own draft grades video. All 32 teams, 32 videos. You never see that happen until now. Because I was disappointed with the pre draft content I was able to put out, because as a college student, free time is a luxury that I don't always have, I have decided to make up for it by making 32 videos throughout the month of May talking about my thoughts on all 32 teams' drafts. And I'm really excited to get into this. Keep in mind, as per usual with draft grades videos, I know that I am going to be wrong on most of these, primarily because we haven't seen these guys play. We don't know how they're going to be developed, all of that good stuff. This is just my analysis based upon how I graded different players leading into the draft. You know, if I think a guy was overdrafted based on my evaluations, underdrafted, et cetera, et cetera. That's what these grades are based off of. I also don't think I'm better than any NFL GM out there. I'm just a 21-year-old college kid who spends the little free time he has watching film. So bear with me. People seem to like my opinions on this kind of stuff. I like sharing it, so I'm going to continue to do so. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the Baltimore Ravens and what they did during the 2024 NFL Draft. Baltimore had one of those draft classes that you know their fans are going to love, and you're going to hear a lot of analysts praise it because they landed some of the, big board darlings, right? Guys like Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa, Tez Walker to a certain extent, Adisa Isaac to a certain extent. Like, they got a lot of guys that the consensus big board really favored. They had some really big value picks. And I like what Baltimore did. I obviously don't agree with the consensus big board. I have my own opinions, and that's, kind of how this goes. But I do think they got some really good value on day 3. I thought they made some really good picks early on. Outside of a really, egregious reach in the second round, and a 6th round pick that I didn't love, but obviously I'm not going to crucify them for it's a 6th round pick, I thought the Ravens did pretty damn good. Did they have the best draft? No, I don't think they even had the best draft in their division, but they did pretty damn good, and that all obviously starts with Nate Wiggins, the corner out of Clemson. And you'll notice right away, I have an A- for this, not like an A+ or an A, like I'm sure a lot of people will. And it's just because I didn't like Wiggins as much as a lot of people. I had him as my CB6, which granted, still a first round grade, which is why this isn't a lower grade. I thought he was definitely worth taking in the first round, but when you have Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Ennis Rakestraw still on the board, I just don't see taking Wiggins being the right move. Now, he's a very Baltimore corner, right? He's one of those guys that has a little bit of Marlon Humphrey to him in the sense that he's going to be a killer, or at his peak, if he develops the way he should and ends up being the player a lot of people think he's going to be a killer outside corner that probably misses some games here and there. But, you're just kind of hoping you get him for the playoffs, and that's what matters at the end of the day. And that's because Wiggins is a skinnier corner. He just doesn't have the mass that a lot of other corners do. 6'1", 173 pounds. The boy's a stick. Point blank, period. Now, this isn't Emmanuel Forbes bad. This isn't like, oh my God, he's unplayable unless you're putting him in an off coverage or running like a Vic Fangio cover 4 quarters defense where he's never going to line up the line of scrimmage. It's not that bad, but it ain't far off. So you definitely want to get Wiggins to bulk up a little bit, which I'm sure Baltimore will. I'm from Maryland. I know how it is around here. You get that boy in a seafood restaurant, give him some Maryland crabs and some Old Bay, and he'll put on that weight in no time. But Wiggins as a player, he's a fantastic corner. Like, I don't think he's bad by any means. I want to make that clear. I just liked a couple other corners better. But you're getting an athletic freak, came out as a true junior, good recovery speed, pretty smooth back pedal, fluid hips. He tries and run defense and tries to play physical. Now, it doesn't always work because, again, he is pretty skinny, but he will try, and I got to give him props for that. Sometimes guys just can't play run defense or can't play physical, but if they're trying, I respect it. So if he's able to bulk up a little bit and stay healthy. That's the other huge thing. The health is going to be a concern for me. If he can stay healthy and can bulk up a little bit, I think Wiggins can be an awesome corner. I don't think this is a bad pick by any means. I think this is a good move, especially with the run on tackles that had happened at this point. So they weren't going to be able to land any of the top tackles, which unfortunately ended up costing them in the second round. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Wiggins has the potential to be a damn good corner. You know, I could come back to this in 2-3 years, have this in A-, and look at it and go, what the hell was I thinking? You know, he's one of those guys that could definitely make me eat my words a little bit. That's coming from somebody that's still relatively high on him. You know, I don't want to make it seem like I'm a Wiggins hater by any means. It's just, I did have a couple corners on the board, or that were still on the board that I thought were better. Even guys that would, you know, fit this kind of profile, maybe just not as athletic, especially with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Ennis Rakestraw. So I'm sure it'll pan out for him though long term. I do like Wiggins a good bit. And then you get to the second round, and Roger Rosengarten is the big miss for me. I think this is going to be a blemish on Baltimore's draft report card, obviously, for me. But long term, I just don't see how this one works out. Because I get it. You need an offensive lineman. You lost Morgan Moses. You want to replace him. You need your right tackle. I understand that. I would much rather have seen them stick with Daniel Falele or draft a different tackle even. Like, I didn't love the tackles that were, let me rephrase this. I didn't love the tackles at this spot that were available at this point. There were still tackles I liked, like Kingsley Suamateo or Brandon Coleman or Karan Amagaji or Delmar Glaze, Christian Jones, Gottlieb Bayedzi. There were plenty of tackles I still liked. I wouldn't have taken them at 62, but I would have taken all of them over Roger Rosengarten. Like I said, there were 20 tackles in this class that I watched, and 18 or 17 of them I thought were better than Rosengarten. I just wasn't a fan. You look at this guy, and again, you want him to be your Morgan Moses replacement. You think Morgan Moses, you think, okay, big body enforcer on the right side of the offensive line who's going to be a demon as a run blocker and is just going to forklift guys. Roger Rosengarten is one of the weaker offensive linemen in this class. Now, you know, he's still college athlete. He's not weak, but I was so underwhelmed by his strength, especially his upper body strength. Just because he's not forklifting guys, he's not moving guys. He's a little too passive in that regard. And on top of that, his anchor's really weak just because of the footwork, especially against the bull rush. He is really going to be limited in that regard. Guys are really, because he has shorter arms, it's really easy to get your hands in his chest and get hands on him before he can get hands on you, which creates a lot of issues. Plays pretty upright. There's just, I don't know. It's really, really tough for me to get behind this pick. Now, I will say he's athletic and he has good hand usage and he tries his ass off. So to a certain extent, I do respect him. And if this was like the 5th round, right? I think I had a 5th round grade on him. Yeah, late round 4, early round 5. If this was the 5th round and you were like, you know what, we're going to take a flyer on a tackle. We're going to see if we can't develop him, see if we can't get something out of him one day, maybe even try him at guard, then sure, I could get behind that. But when you have a guy that is 6'5", already over 300 pounds, and he's just not strong enough for the position, I don't know. I just can't get behind it. There were better tackles. There were better overall players. You could have won a different position and waited and probably still gotten a guy that was as good, if not better, than Rosengarten later on in the draft. But I digress. Moving on, being a little bit more positive, we have Adisa Isaac, the edge rusher out of Penn State. Goodness, excuse me. And I like this pick quite a bit. You know, this is the 3rd round. You're going for, I don't know, how do I want to put this? You're going for like a rotational edge, right? You're not expecting to land an edge rusher that's going to be your 1 or your 2. And quite frankly, you don't need it. You've got a good edge room in Baltimore. You just need to replenish your rotation. You had that sick rotation of veteran edge rushers, and now those guys have left. You're looking to replenish it. You get Adisa Isaac, who was one of the better run defending edge rushers in this class. I was a big fan of his ability to defend the run. That was really what stood out with him. He's really physical, high motor guy, great on like those 2nd and 3rd effort plays and running guys down in pursuit. You know, if someone actually manages to get the ball by him, you better be damn certain he's gonna try to chase them down. He has a great anchor, pretty good at chaining together moves, especially like swipe moves and rip moves and things of that nature. Pretty fluid, pretty athletic, really good first step, strong arms, long arms for that matter. Now, he doesn't have the best bend. His balance becomes an issue when he tries to bend. His pass rushing tool belt is pretty shallow. You know, he doesn't have a lot to his tool belt, but you're not drafting Adisa Isaac with the expectation that he's some super bendy pass rusher. You're drafting him and saying, okay, we've got a guy who's going to play on early downs. He's going to be, you know, our third, maybe fourth edge rusher in our rotation. And that's pretty damn good, right? I think Isaac's ceiling is like a low end 2, a high end 3, a superstar level 4, that type of thing. And, you know, being Baltimore, they know the importance of good edge depth more than probably anybody right now. So I can absolutely understand why they'd want to go here and end up taking Adisa Isaac in the third. Then in the fourth, they get Tez Walker, the wide receiver out of North Carolina. And I gave this one an A+, not because I think this is some crazy steal. Like, I did have a third round grade on Walker, so this is good value. But I really like the fit. Because as of right now, Tez Walker's what? Your wide receiver 4? And he gives you something in your receiver room you straight up didn't have. You didn't have this crazy, like, pure deep threat Z that you just tell him, hey, run a go route. You're either going to take somebody, you know, you're going to pull the safety with you and open up somebody over the middle, or you're going to get yourself in a really good one-on-one situation and Lamar can throw it up to you, or you're going to beat your guy, right? He is that true dynamic downfield threat that they don't have. Now, they have guys that are capable of that. I shouldn't say they didn't have it, but now they can be put in better roles. Specifically Zay Flowers. Obviously, he can play downfield, but you don't want Zay Flowers as a deep threat on every single play. You want him as your do-it-all, primarily probably over-the-middle type of guy. You just extended Rashad Bateman. We'll have to see what he does, because Lord knows nobody knows at this point. And I just like the upside with Tez Walker. I like the fit. Now, obviously, there are some issues. His drop concerns are certainly concerning, but I am in the camp that, or the field of the group of belief, worded that horribly, but what I'm trying to say is I believe that drops are probably the easiest thing to fix with a draft prospect at receiver, because most of the time it's just concentration. Most of the time it's just jitters. You just gotta, you know, we've seen plenty of receivers come into the league with bad hands and get that fixed up. The point is, like, it's relatively easy to fix for a receiver. So I like the fit for Tez Walker a lot. Now, I don't think there were any receivers on the board at this point that I would have considered over him. Just to double check real quick. No, definitely not. There were a couple guys I liked, but no one I would have taken over Tez Walker. So you get the best receiver on the board. You get him around later than I thought he was worth, and he's a really good fit. I think that's a good job. Kind of the same thing with TJ Tampa, where I don't think this is some, like, super steal. I had a lower grade on Tampa than a lot of people did. I had a late round 3, early round 4. You know, you saw people kind of mocking him at the start of the second round, which I thought was a little bit crazy. But I can see the appeal. You know, I like Tampa, and again, this is another situation where I like the fit primarily, which is why he gets the A+ here. Not so much because I think he's like a can't miss A+ prospect, but just because it's good value. You know, it's pretty much the 5th round. So the late 4th round, getting a guy that I thought was worth a 3rd to a 4th round pick. He's got the size, he's got the zone IQ, really good at reading quarterbacks, very physical at the catch point, really good ball skills, pretty physical against the run. He's somebody that's just going to step in and be like a rotational corner to start out, you know, a depth corner. And long term, I mean, I could see him projecting to be like a Rasul Douglas, where he's just a playmaker from the nickel. You know, he's really, really good in like Tampa 2 looks, and we know Baltimore ran a lot of those. Now, obviously, you lose your defensive coordinator. Maybe that'll change a little bit. I doubt it, though. They've got really good personnel to run Tampa 2. So TJ Tampa, ironically, fits pretty well in those packages. I expect that we'll see him on the field more often than you might think from a 4th round corner, especially going to a team that has a pretty solid secondary and took a corner in the 1st round. But it's a good value pick. Not as good as a lot of people want you to believe, but pretty damn solid. And I like the player, so I can get behind the pick here. Then the 5th round, they take Rasheen Ali, the running back out of Marshall. And I don't know, I don't love this one. I think there were better backs on the board. You look at guys like Kamani Vidal, Jawar Jordan, Dylan Laube was one of my favorite backs in this class. There were just better options. That's the reason this is a B minus. Now, I don't think that Ollie's like a terrible running back by any means. He's something, he's a solid runner, nice like one cut back who is going to benefit from having a good offensive line in front of him. Now, there's some issues with his contact balance. Injuries are starting to pile up for him. He missed 2022 with a knee injury, got hurt at the Senior Bowl, looking at my notes here. Now, he's a good pass catcher out of the backfield, so, like, he adds something. I don't think he's a bad running back by any means. I just thought there were better backs on the board. That's why this grade is a little bit lower. But I can see the vision. I think Ollie's a fine back. I think he'll be a good complement to the rest of the running backs they have. I don't want to say you're J.K. Dobbins' replacement, because I don't think he's as good as Dobbins, but then again, Dobbins was never on the field to really know how good he is, so take that as you will. They're similar. I could see him being a J.K. Dobbins-esque player. And we know Baltimore tends to make running backs look better than they actually are because they got big old pancake Pat Ricard blocking for him, so we'll have to see how that pans out. And then in the 6th round, they take Devin Leary, the quarterback out of Kentucky. I did not like this pick at all. Now, obviously, I can't slam them too hard. It's a quarterback, or it's a 6th round quarterback, rather. I don't know. Leary, he's not good. I didn't have a draftable grade on him. I just don't see the appeal. There were better quarterbacks on the board. You look at somebody like Michael Pratt from Tulane was still there. Austin Reed, I thought was better. He ends up going undrafted. Same with Sam Hartman, Talia Tagovailoa. I just don't see it. Leary was one of the few players I had that I didn't give a draftable grade to, so taking him in the 6th round, it's bad value. I thought there were better guys available, but again, it's the 6th round. It is what it is. Then they take this center out of Michigan State. I believe it's Nick Samick is how you say it. I could be wrong. He's somebody that I got to after the draft, but the point I'm trying to make here is, like, I liked what I saw. He was a 3-year starter, good feet, good technique. He's going to fit very well in their scheme. We've got good hand placement, strong core, good athlete, smart blocker. He's not the most explosive guy in the world, and he's not exactly a people mover, but it's a 7th round. You're looking for some offensive line depth. I can absolutely get behind that. Good pick. And then Sanusi Kane, I believe is how you say that name. I did not get around to his tape at all. I cannot say anything. I'm going to look at a draft profile here to kind of give you something. It looks like just a quick, tough, run-defending safety. Sure, I'm with it. It's very Baltimore Ravens, so I can't complain there. Again, I'm not going to give them an actual grade for that pick because I simply did not watch Kane. He was not on my radar. I didn't watch him before the draft, didn't watch him after. Don't even know what the guy looks like. But according to NFL.com, he is a box safety that plays hard, and I gotta love that. So as a whole, I think Baltimore did pretty damn good. This wasn't the perfect draft. Again, like I said, I don't even think it was the best draft in this division. That Roger Rosengarten pick, really, really hard for me to see how that pans out, or plays out positively, rather. Really thought they should have just stuck with Falele there at right tackle, or went a different direction, or even maybe traded up in the 1st round. Like, if you were really desperate for that right tackle, do something else. I just don't see the appeal of Rosengarten. I don't know. He's got the mentality, though, one of those dudes that's going to make me eat my words. He's going to put on like 30, 40 pounds over the next 2 years and become a fucking immovable rock at right tackle. And if he does, I will happily eat my words. But I personally don't see it as of right now. As of 5/15/24, when I'm recording this, just after midnight, I personally don't see it. But overall, I'm going to give him an A-. I thought they did a damn good job. Like the Wiggins pick, like the Isaac pick, really like the Walker and Tampa picks. Rasheen Ali, I can see a world where he's at least a productive RB2 or maybe an RB3. So we'll have to see how this pans out long term. But Baltimore, they've got a fantastic roster. They filled up some holes for sure. Secondary got better. Defensive line got a little bit of help. And they added another pass catching threat for Lamar. And Lord knows Lamar can never have too many of those after all of the years of abuse he went through in Baltimore. So, good draft class overall. I really like what Baltimore's cooking. And it'll be exciting to see how these guys do in the upcoming season.
Had a chance on the throwback.
This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder.
Wow. Using that